Julia. Why don't we give her a little applause too?
When I was in the 3rd grade, I joined the choir in my Episcopal Church. This particular service must have been a special occasion because the adult choir and the children's choir were both singing. I looked ahead at the bulletin. I was excited to see that the communion hymn was one of my very favorites. Let all mortal flesh keep silence. This beautiful, haunting melody, the powerful language, I got to say hell right out loud. And it was so mysterious, those 6 winged seraphs and the cherubim who never slept. I loved that hymn. But when it came time to sing it in the service, I couldn't tell if I was really supposed to be singing. The other kids weren't. Maybe it was just for the adult choir. Still, it said hymn. I remember struggling, and I kept looking at the organist, my choir director, for some kind of signal. Got nothing. So I decided I wasn't really supposed to sing, and I didn't. The next Wednesday at choir rehearsal, Mr. Winters said, "How come you guys weren't singing that hymn?" Just felt my heart fall to the floor. But I was also a little angry. If he had noticed that we weren't singing, why hadn't he given me a signal? I just needed the slightest nod or a smile. I decided I would never wait for that smile or nod again. I would jump in. And as I look back on that day, I still wonder what on earth made me think, even for a minute, that I shouldn't sing. I knew the hymn. I was used to singing hymns in church, been doing it ever since I could read or before. And I was wearing a choir robe, for goodness sake. How could I have wondered? And if I could have thought that at that moment, then I know there are plenty of people in our congregations who don't know that they are really invited to participate. They might be children, they might be newcomers, maybe they've been told they don't have a good voice. It could be anybody. I learned that the invitation needs to be so explicit and so clear. Our hospitality needs to be so abundant and clear that there's no question, but that they really are invited. And this realization has informed my ministry in my local church and in the diocese and in the national church. Seeking for full inclusion, striving to make that invitation real, and working to facilitate full participation in singing and in all of the liturgy and in all of church life.
Did you hear a story? Oh, I got to stop doing that. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it's excessive. Did you hear a story there? Did you hear a choice point there? And it was interesting, your choice points, because it both reflected a kind of disappointment with yourself, but also some anger with those who should have invited more vigorously. Is that correct?
Yes.
So it's sort of a combination of the disappointment and the anger and the desire for inclusion that I got. Was I getting the right thing?
Yes.
And so then, how did that set you on the path that you've been on?
Well, I think both my decision to fully engage and not wait for some authority to give me permission is a big part of it. And the knowledge that I learned, just especially as an adult looking back on it and imagining, remembering myself and imagining what that feels like to people.
To not be fully,
to
be sort of present but not fully invited.
Yeah, that we can't assume that they know they're invited.
Yeah. And so as I understand, one way you chose to work on that is to work to build the church experience to be one of powerful invitation. And it's interesting to me, too, that you've chosen to do that through song and religious practice and liturgy. Is that?
Yeah.
Does this make sense to you? Do you get a sense of why she is called to the work that she's doing in welcoming liturgy and creating an experience of deep inclusion? You get an idea where that comes from? Now, this is what we're going to be working on, is to make the link between those experiences that form the values, the things that matter to us, and then what we make of them, and how we translate them into a course of action. And anything you'd like to add, Julie?
I can't think of anything.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.